An Engineer's Innovation Win Battles, and other episodes. A book by retired Wing Commander N.S. Rao.
Sigma Might of People is Might of Nation in 2016. Second edition with updated content in 2019. Telugu edition 2022. వాయుసేన విజయ సాధన ఓ ఇంజనీర్ ఆలోచన. తెలుగు వీడియో ఎడిషన్ 2024. Third English audio edition with updated content in 2025. Voice artists Deep Narayan and Wing Commander N.S. Rao retired. YouTube channel Somashekar Rao N. Author's email somshekarrao@gmail.com. somshekarrao@readifmail.com. Author mobile 098855 Published by N. Somshekar Rao, Wing Commander, retired. No part of this publication, which is material protected by this copyright notice, shall be reproduced or transmitted or utilized or stored in any form or by any means now known or hereinafter invented, electronic, digital or mechanical, including photocopying, scanning, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without prior written permission of the author N. Somshekar Rao, Wing Commander, retired. Legal disclaimer. The view and opinion expressed in this book are purely those of the author and only and does not reflect the views of the publisher or in any way whatsoever. Author is the sole owner of the copyright. All disputes, controversies, legal cases or claims, if any, arising out of the book is to be taken up with the author directly and be subjected to the exclusive jurisdiction of Hyderabad, Telangana. Author contact details N. Somshekar Rao, Wing Commander, retired, 098855 64225. somshekarrao@gmail.com.
Forward. I have not had the opportunity to read the edited copy of the book titled Sigma, Might of People equals Might of Nation, now edited and republished, titled as An Engineer's Innovation Wins Battles and Other War Stories, but only a few sections of the manuscript. Nonetheless, I am delighted to write a few words in recognition of a brilliant technical officer who has put his theoretical knowledge to great use by translating it into practical application during his entire career in the Air Force. Military history is replete with instances of unsung heroes, and Somshekar Rao, N.S. Rao, is among those unfortunate ones who could not receive the recognition rightly that was due to him. It was in the mid-1966, on the promotion to the rank of Wing Commander, that I assumed the command of the Lightning's squadron that was equipped with Hunter Mk-56 fighter aircraft. I was fortunate to inherit a team of young pilots and technical officers who were endowed with deep sense of commitment and dedication, many of whom attained accolades and respect from their superiors and peers. They also became a great motivating force for the youngsters associated with them. Pilot Officer N.S. Rao, although very young himself, did not take long to demonstrate his professional acumen and become a pride of the squadron. Soon after my assuming command, this bright young officer caught my eye as a dynamic technical officer capable of accomplishing the tasks assigned to him to my satisfaction. I therefore started assigning some tasks directly to him, rather than through his superiors. It was a decision that I never regretted. The Air Force decided to buy the upgraded version of the Hunter Mk-56, and my squadron was selected to be the first squadron to be equipped with the same. I personally did a number of ferries to fly the Hunter Mark 56A back to India from the United Kingdom. The main feature of this upgraded version was the ability to carry 230-gallon drop tanks under each wing, thereby almost doubling the operational range. Unfortunately, this aircraft had serious lacunae, as these large drop tanks could only be carried under the wings on the inboard station, but not at outboards because of their excessive weight. Further, they were fitted with ejector release units, involving firing of cartridge to release the stores. This meant that we could either carry these large tanks or the arsenal on the inboard station. During my discussions with N.S. Rao, he suggested that he could work on modification by which he could retain the tanks on the inboard station and strengthen the outboard station for carriage of weapon load, thereby helping us increase our operational range and also the ability to carry adequate weapon load on the outboard station. This was music to my ears, and after getting the required clearance from Air Headquarters, I delegated the responsibility of undertaking this modification to Pilot Officer N.S. Rao. This complex modification entailed not only a total rewiring, but also strengthening of the pylons on the outboard station and synchronizing the gun sight. This task was completed in record time, and I personally tested the efficacy of the modification by flying sorties and launching weapon loads, vis-a-vis snub rockets from the pods and bombs. The former was carried out at Tilpat firing range just outside Delhi, and the later in the form of dummy bombs on the airfield. I was delighted that on both occasions I was able to score direct hits on the targets. This modification went a long way in significantly enhancing our penetration ability in enemy territory and also carrying suitable weapon load. Since I was associated with this project right from the beginning, I have no hesitation in saying that Pilot Officer Rao's contribution saved the Government of India a huge amount of foreign exchange and enhanced the war potential of the squadron. As recognition of his achievement, the squadron nicknamed him Genius and always addressed him as such. Whilst he may not have received any awards for conceiving and undertaking this task, he not only had the personal satisfaction of displaying his professionalism for an extremely high order, but also earning the respect and gratitude of the squadron. Om Sai Ram. Air Chief Marshal N.C. Suri, PVSM, AVSM, VM. Preface. At the outset, I would like to say a few words about the title of the book, Sigma Might of People equals Might of Nation, now edited and republished, titled as An Engineer's Innovation Wins Battles and Other War Stories. When I bounced off the name within my immediate circle, it drew a lot of attention, both good and bad. Some were quite excited that the title was different and even unique, suggesting the nature of the content. The symbol used in the title is sigma, uppercase. This is a Greek alphabet which in mathematics means summation. It symbolizes the sum of efforts, that is, even a small contribution of a group of common people leads to the might of the nation in any sphere of activity, that is, sigma, might of people, equals might of nation. There are many real-life examples for this concept, like Swachh Bharat. When a handful of people pitch in to help, a lane gets cleaned. When extrapolated, this leads to a clean colony, a clean city, finally, a clean nation. When a large group of people contribute their might, however small or marginal, it adds up to a pile of Himalayan proportions, given the enterprise and resourcefulness that comes so instinctively and naturally to millions of Indians. The example in focus from my personal life is about a modification on the Hunter aircraft. The foreword, written by Air Chief N.C. Suri, my squadron commanding officer, then as wing commander, essentially about my tenure in Hunter Squadron, lightings and the modification. Other topics and chapters are not covered in the foreword. They are my narratives and observations. Resourcefulness is a form of creativity. Creativity in popular perception is associated with fine arts, but is applicable to all disciplines of life. Creativity is positive vision and an idea, an approach in a nutshell. It was a way of dealing with life's issues, both small and big. But essentially, creativity should be measurable and finally contribute to the nation and the society at large. Negative contribution cannot be called creativity, rather, it is destructive. I am a constant student of creativity, right from my early working days. I taught creativity at Osmania University to postgraduate management students for 7 or so batches. I encouraged my students to explore and innovate by making cross connections between disciplines to give shape to their ideas. I wish many more people in the world would perform closer to their creative potential by stripping out the ephemeral motives that obstruct creativity and make a difference with their creative potential at the organizational and social level. In recent times, Jan Dhan Yojana, introduced by our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, is one of the classic examples of creativity in the organizational and social context. The scheme immensely helps to ensure that financial benefits reach only the target groups. Secondly, indirectly helps to reduce misuse and abuse of the system by eliminating the middlemen. The group, which mostly influences their prices, creates artificial scarcity and leads to corruption. Corruption is a classic negative feature which undermines many creative activities. There is need in organizations to link perceptual clarity with the policies and procedures. P.C. Parekh, in the case of the coal scam, or Ashok Khemka, in the land deals in Haryana, are two notable bureaucrats who were not afraid to talk tough despite being aware of the retrospective action. The nation owes a lot to honest officers who have worked hard for a clean system, even at personal risk. Finally, I wish to impress on the reader that by seeing the collective contribution of this action, however small and marginal, one can improve self-satisfaction levels and motivate others, thus collectively ushering in a more positive outlook for the betterment of the society. I invite the reader to join me in this exploration. Acknowledgements. Writing this book gave me a chance to recollect challenging circumstances and situations I faced in my professional life and the abundant satisfaction I derived from successfully overcoming them. I hope both young and old readers find enough inspiration and motivation in it, as that was the idea of writing a book of this genre. A motivational autobiography. Big thanks in advance to all my readers for investing their time in reading this book. My Hunter project would not have seen success without the cooperation of technician air warriors. Thanks to all those involved in the project in any way. Thanks to C. Gangadharan, an airframe expert and a sergeant in those days. Special thanks to Air Chief Marshal N.C. Suri, Chief of Air Staff, retired, my officer commanding as Wing Commander then, for his valuable encouragement during incorporation of the modification and now for writing the foreword to the book with matching enthusiasm. Big thanks to my office staff, Pavan Kumar, for deciphering my manuscript and repeated typing, K. Srinivas Rao for helping out with minimum interruptions from office work. Special thanks to Sujata C. for initiating the idea and urging me to write a book instead of a few articles. Her editorial assistance, timely reviews, feedback and support in publishing the book were immensely valuable. Last but not the least, I am grateful to my dear wife Suhasini for providing the environment to write the book and make it a reality.
Prologue. Many things have happened in the 77, now 83 years of my life. An old war veteran in the Indian Air Force when I authored my first book. I participated in the operations from front lines in the Indo-Pak War 1965, the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, and the Indo-Pak War of 1971 in the Western Front. I had the opportunity to actively participate from these front lines in all these wars and operations. The country obtained independence from the British when I was about 5 years old. I had seen the country going through its teething troubles and growing up pains. While I myself was a child going into an adolescent. I have memories of India's war with China in 1962. Hearing the agony-filled concern of Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in radio speeches. My personal preference for disciplined life and years of grooming in Bharat Scouts Auxiliary Cadet Corps ACC during my schooling days and NCC during college strongly motivated my decision to serve the country by joining the Indian Air Force. India is abundantly endowed with hard-working, enthusiastic and well-meaning people who work for better nation through widely spread disciplines that have direct bearing on the quality of human life. Such fields include health, hygiene, education, food, nourishment, housing, legal, judiciary, law, and more. The personal contribution of many such motivational combined together contributed to the nation building. They succeeded even face of power-hungry, egoistic and egotistic people who dominate public affairs, whether in political life or in government. I deeply believe that these single personal contributions inspire many more to do their best and contribute their share. Millions of individual contributions manifest in national might. My personal contribution beyond the call of duty during my service life is a typical illustration of concept of leading by example. Young people are not merely the future. They are the bedrock upon which the survival of the families, societies and nations depends. Their energy, creativity and potential are the raw materials for shaping future that is sustainable. But these raw materials need more than simple resources to be refined into something useful. The older generation, those who have already walked the path, must do more than provide material support. Tangible resources like money, food, education are important, but secondary to the deeper foundation of values, discipline, and moral strength. Without these, no amount of wealth will turn youth into productive members of the society. The responsibility lies heavily on those who have gone before it, and they who must provide more than instructions. They must lead by example. To speak of patriotism or civic duties is one thing. To live by these principles is another. If the older generation fails to embody the very ideals they preach, the words are hollow. The youth will follow, but not towards a better future instead. They will mirror the same, inherit the same weaknesses and they observed. National spirit and civic duty are not concepts to be taught in the abstract. They must be lived day by day, action by action. The failure To instill these values is not solely the fault of the young. It is the older generation, especially better offs, must look to it first. It is easy to blame the youth for their missteps, their failures to contribute. But what have they seen? Have they been given a model to follow? Words means little without the weight of the action behind them. If elders wish the youngsters to engage with society, it contribute meaningfully, they must first demonstrate how it is done. To secure the future, the older generation must fulfill their duty. It must provide more than instruction. It must offer an example that the young can trust, follow, and believe in it. The grand tapestry of societal evaluation, the older generation must recognize the fundamental truth. The youth requires more than mere material resources for their development. They need a bedrock of values that shape their attitude and empower them to make meaningful contribution to both society and nation. While tangible resources are often prioritized, the true lifeblood of the progress lies in its values, attitudes, and the strength of character, fostered through guidance that exposes to exemplary role models. The responsibility of the older generation extends beyond mere provision. It encompasses the vital task of instilling the emotional and national spirit necessary for the youth to fulfill their roles effectively. It is an obligation to lead by example, setting a standard that the younger generation can aspire to. Blaming the young exclusively for their values, their lifestyle, is a misplaced critique. Instead, elders must first exemplify by virtues they wish to see and then extend the leadership to guide the broader youth population. The modern youth face battlefield, though the weapons are not bullets and bombs, but sometimes more insidious: disillusionment, apathy, and betrayal. They start with ambition in their hearts only to find the ground beneath them shifting. Too often they surrender early. Demoralized by obstacles they barely understand. Some chase fleeting trends, others seek fortune in distant lands, convinced that prosperity lies elsewhere. But they do blame. But are they to blame? Not entirely. The real culprits lurk in the corridors of power. Politicians who crave dominions, bureaucrats who suffocate progress under layers of indifference, arrogance, and red tape. Policies remain frozen in the vice grip of inaction. Jobs are scarce, opportunities even scarcer. Overpopulation breeds desperation, exploitation flourishes, corruption festers like disease, and in the shadows, unseen hands are always at work, ready to undermine, to sabotage, to bury the young the moment you turn your back. This is not merely a crisis, it is a design, an unspoken, systemic betrayal of the entire generation. And unless something changes, the cycle will repeat again and again. How can one expect to find positivity in a world so steeped in negativity? The answer is not in the darkness itself, but beyond it. Recall the myth of Pandora's box. Hope was the final entity to emerge, lingering when all manners of evil, jealousy, hypocrisy, meanness had already been unleashed. When confronted with adversity, it may overwhelm and hinder us, yet it simultaneously presents challenge, a test of resilience. Bad governance, characterized by a lack of transparency, policy inertia, relentless drive for power, the rampant corruption, contributes to a fractured social environment. These issues undermine our collective well-being and challenge our capacity for constructive changes. Yet, amid these trials, it is precisely this hope that elusive spark emerging after the storm that can guide us forward. Inadequacy, whether born of scarce resources or limited opportunities, presents a distinct set of challenges impacting individuals or deeply personal levels. These trials are not merely obstacles to be overcome, but tests of our very character. They demand that we summon our inner resolve, cultivate essential attitudes, and forge trials such as entrepreneurship and resourcefulness. Each challenge is an opportunity for personal growth and learning, shaping our destiny. The path forward is in our hands. It is a choice that ultimately defines who we become. The world is filled with people who dream of better tomorrow. Yet, only precious few lift a finger to make it so. The majority stand by hoping for a change, while the very notion of action remains distant ago. But consider this, if millions of us, each in our own not small way, began contributing even the smallest gesture, a shift would take place. Raindrops form rivers, and rivers form oceans. It is the rain, after all, that feeds the seas. Lao Tzu once said that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, a phrase that John F. Kennedy often quoted in the grimmest days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. In moments of uncertainty, we turn to wisdom of those long gone, hoping they might guide us. So, are we in the time of crisis? The answer is unflinchingly is yes. We have inflicted damage upon the environment that defies explanation. We have made a mess of our personal life, neglecting those around us in haze of intolerance and apathy. Worse still, We have allowed the powerful to exploit and divide us on the grounds of religion, region, and any other absurdity that serves their purpose. And any other absurdity that serves our purpose. Exploitation has become the currency of the age, a way of life now entrenched in our very fabric. The question is no longer whether this is a crisis, but how long it can afford to wait before the raindrops turn into a storm. In military circles, there is an old saying, the balloons are up. It is a term that harks back on the trenches of World War I, when war was no longer a distant rumble, but a grim reality knocking at the doors. When the balloons went up, it means that conflict was either underway or imminent. It was a signal for heightened alert, a time when every man knew the storm was about to break. The phrase itself is rooted in the earliest days of aerial warfare, when aviation was barely in its infancy. Back then, airfields and critical targets were ringed with barrages of balloons, massive gas-filled bags tethered to the ground by the thick cables. These balloons were strategically placed in the most vulnerable areas where enemy aircraft is expected to strike. When hostile planes approached, the balloons would be hoisted up into the sky, their cable creating a deadly web. Pilots flying low, seeking to strike the bomb with their targets, would find their aircraft ensnared in the mesh of steel and canvas, and their mission thwarted. And now, as history echoes across the years, mankind finds itself in a similar moment. Balloons are up again, not in the literal sense, but in the undeniable sense that we face a new kind of war, a war of consequence and wake-up calls. It is time to confront reality before it tightens its grip. Every thinking man knows we stand at the moment of reckoning. The warning signs are unmistakable, and our failings are no longer hidden in the shadow. They have been laid there for all to see. The time for complacency is over. This is moment of high alert, where every decision, every action must be precise and purposeful. We have been spotted. Our errors are exposed. The consequences are closing in. What remains is clear. We must move swiftly into the operational readiness. The task before us is no small matter. It is a long and arduous journey to set right the wrongs we have allowed to fester. And in this mission, no step is too small, no effort insignificant. Each one matters, but it is only through these cumulative actions that the tide will turn. Let us begin with a simple truth. The world will not change unless we first change ourselves. It is no grand gesture that turns the tide, but small acts done consistently and with purpose. Start with your own space. Even something as seemingly insignificant as refusing plastic or ensuring your waste finds its proper place. It is not the act itself, but the mindset behind it. A mindset of responsibility, of refusing to add to the world's burden. From there, look forward. There are countless ways to increase the balances of good in this world. Perhaps it is running for a cause that sets you, or joining a candlelight vigil. Stand against the injustice that gnaws at your conscience. The causes are many, and it is for you to choose where your heart leads. What matters is that you act. This book is not merely a collection of words, but a call to action. It is my attempt to lead by example, to inspire, particularly the young, those with the most at stake in the future, to stand up, to push against the inertia of or complacency, for in the face of overwhelming odds, even the smallest effort towards positivity can be a spark that changes everything. There comes a time when you must go beyond the call of duty, when the bare minimum is no longer enough. Each of us, regardless of our station or circumstances, has the power to effect change, to shift the world, if only by degrees, towards the better. It is tempting, in the face of adversity, to retreat, to believe that our efforts are insignificant. But that is the voice of defeat, and we must never bow to it. Never say die. As the years pass, our bodies may age, but the fire within us must never dim. Age, after all, is not measured by the passage of time, but the vitality of the mind. We must keep the same fire, the same unyielding passion that burned in our youth, for these are the years that will define us. What we do now in these critical moments will shape not only the course of our lives, but the futures of those who follow. The dreams of the young, when nurtured and guided, have the power to build nations. It is these aspirations that the hopes of country lies. But dreams alone are not enough. They must be acted upon with the same relentless determination that forges empires. For it is in these efforts that the destiny of the generations will be written. This book has no literary pretensions. It is not a spicy love story or a riveting thriller, nor is it a sensational autobiography of a celebrity. Instead, it is a simple narrative of a few events from my personal life that I feel have made a modest contribution to the nation. I share these with the reader with the hope that some might be inspired by my endeavor. Jai Hind.